On today's video, I am cooking 100 years of beef, and we're gonna rank them from 1 to 10 so you know which one is best. And we're starting off with this one. Get ready, things are about to get crazy. This beef has constantly been ranked as the #1 in the world, many times over. It has an incredible flavor that is sure to please everyone. This is beef Rendang, and it is the perfect dish for us to start this 100 years of beef. And here's how it's made. First, into a food processor, you want to throw in some dried chilies, followed by white onions, garlic, ginger, lemongrass paste, and galangal. Cover the whole thing up and blend it on high. Now into a pesto and mortar, you want to throw in some dried coconut. Smash that real good until it becomes a paste, just like this. Now into your pan, throw in some oil, followed by that wonderful mix that was just made. Let that cook for a little bit, as then you want to go ahead and add your beef. As once you have mixed everything together, you want to go ahead and add some coconut milk, stir it so that everything is nicely combined, then add in some cloves, cinnamon stick, star anise, cardamom, lime leaves, the shredded coconut, and some tamarind paste. Now mix everything together and combine, because now you want to cover the whole thing up and let it cook for quite some time. After about an hour, take a look. This is what we're left with. Beef Rendang. When serving it, make sure to be generous with it, as this is delicious. To finish it up, I added some coconut, followed by some slices of chili and a tiny bit of green for presentation. Now this is beef Rendang.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh my God.
Oh, well, it's actually money.
You get this sweetness from, I think, coconut. I think that's what that is on the top. It does give it a little bit of a different bite, like that little chewiness. But at the same time, it has like some salty, some spicy, some sweet. This is nice. I like this.
And then that hint of sweetness that is on there works really well with the savoriness of the rest of the dish. And then the rice on the bottom, just to complement everything, amazing.
100%. There's definitely so many spices in there. It's very rich and kind of like earthy in its taste. Tastes like something my grandma would have made, but it feels that comforting.
There's no way to make this better.
This is delicious. Well, the 1910s was obviously a banger. Let's see what 1920s got.
Well, this is the 1920s dish. It is called Sukiyaki, originated in Japan about 100 years ago, and it was when the emperor repealed a century-old ban on meat eating. And I'll tell you something, this is in a whole nother level. The first thing you're gonna need is slightly thin meat. These are New York strip. Widely available now on supermarkets. It will cook quickly, which is essential for this dish. Another thing you're gonna need is this, washirita, which is used for sukiyaki. To cook this, the first thing we need is a pot, a nice deep one. Get it nice and hot and throw in some wagyu fat. Then go ahead and saute some scallions. As soon as they got a little bit of color, add in some mushrooms, followed by some bok choy, tofu, enoki mushrooms, some shirataki noodles, a generous amount of the thinly sliced beef, followed by the washirita sauce. Now bring everything to a simmer and let it cook. It will cook quite quickly. You can always cover the whole thing up for serving. Talking about that, you also want to do a quick sauce, which you add a tiny bit of washirita sauce, followed by an egg yolk. Now mix that real good, and it is ready to be served. My favorite way of eating it is to grab a piece of beef and soak it in the sauce just like this. I'm telling you, friends, this is an experience. And if you've never had it, you should. But even though I love it, let's find out how good it actually is.
Cheers.
Oh, those noodles are fire. I'm sorry. They hold so much flavor. It's so savory, salty.
Just like the amount of like broth that comes out of each bite. Oh my God.
The noodles are also a very different texture because they're a little bit chewy, have a little bit of buoyancy, so it gives you like a nice bite, and that broth really permeates every ounce of all of these ingredients. You get that flavor with every single bite, and there's a lot of stuff going on. It tastes really good.
The only thing I can say about this that I don't like, the pot is like this big.
Yeah, we need like a witch's cauldron full of this stuff or something, man, because that's good.
I guess we have to move on to the next.
Yeah. We're hungry. Let's see what the 1930s got.
Well, this decade we have the Sloppy Joe. It was also when Philly cheesesteak came out. And of course, Steak Diane, which is phenomenal. Another dish you might not know is called Beef Chow Fun. This is absolutely incredible, especially if you love noodles and beef. The first thing to do is to marinate the beef. Make sure it's thinly sliced. I'm using flank steaks. Then you want to add in some soy sauce, followed by hoisin sauce, dark soy sauce, chicken bouillon, some baking soda, and white pepper. Now mix everything well and let it marinate. On a separate bowl, you want to make the Chow Fun sauce. You first want to add some chicken bouillon, followed by soy sauce, hoisin sauce, sugar, and cornstarch. Now whisk everything well and set it aside. Into a wok, you want to throw in some oil, followed by that marinated beef. Let it cook for a little bit. This will take no time at all, as once it's cooked, you want to go ahead and remove it, and using the same pan, throw in some onions, followed by garlic. Now stir fry that for a little bit, as then you want to add in some rice noodle and mix and combine everything together. Now push the noodles to the side and go ahead and throw in some eggs. Go ahead and start to mix them and cook it, as then you want to combine everything together. As now it is time to add in the beef. Now stir it and mix. To finish it up, go ahead and add the sauce. Stir it carefully so that you don't break the noodles. Because now throw in some bean sprouts, followed by green onions. Mixed everything together until it's fully combined, and it is time to serve. Now this is beef Chow Fun. I'm curious to see how this one is gonna rank.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.
It do taste right.
Panda Express ain't got on this.
I don't know what Guga did to this, but that steak is like a flavor bomb in this.
The rice noodles hold on to the sauce so well.
The noodles are springy. You get a little bit of that crunch from the bean sprout. They also give it like a little bit of freshness. Really good.
I know I've had this many times, but the flavor's on the money.
I agree.
It's perfect.
It's like a really, really, really flavorful and Asian tasting dish.
Slightly sweet, a little bit savory, but all the ingredients mix so well. It's absolutely perfect.
I'm going for some more. This stuff is delicious.
You guys can keep eating, but I'm ready for the 1940s. Let's get it cracking.
Now the name of this next dish is called Milanesa Napolitana, and you're probably thinking this is an Italian dish. It was invented in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and it is insanely delicious. First, we need beef. I'm using this choice grade ribeye. First thing to do is to slice it nice and thin. Once that's done, it's time for the seasoning. I went with salt and pepper, as now you run it through the 3 breading process. First the flour, followed by the egg and breadcrumbs. And just like a schnitzel, you want to go ahead and deep fry the whole thing. Make sure to deep fry it quickly, as we just want to cook the breadcrumbs right now, because once you got a golden brown crust, set it down on a cooling rack, then add a generous amount of marinara sauce, followed by your choice of ham, a tiny bit more of marinara sauce, and of course add some mozzarella. Now into the broiler it goes in the medium setting. As soon as your cheese starts melting, it's time for the plating. And traditionally, it's eaten with French fries. So go ahead and add it to the plate, a tiny bit of parsley for color, and this is the 1940s Milanesa Napolitana. I can tell you one thing, if you love schnitzel, give this a try, as it is extremely popular in South America. But let's see how this one stacks up.
Cheers.
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 Oh, wow.
Man, this tastes like something my grandma would make.
Yeah, the flavors are perfect. That steak is perfectly cooked, it's tender. The breading is not too greasy or anything like that. It's perfectly fried. All the flavors mesh together well and come through beautifully. This is pretty freaking delicious.
The steak is super, super tender too.
What I like is I think there's like a little ham, and that ham has some sweetness to it that kind of like helps everything come together. It's like a ham and cheese sandwich. Like imagine that in your head, but with a steak. Well, that was amazing. I think it's time to go to the 50s though. What do you think?
Yep.
And this is what's up next, Mongolian beef. Now you might be surprised because this is not from Mongolia. It's actually from Taiwan. And at the same time, it is loved by many, including me. Now to make it, it's quite simple. You first want to marinate the beef. I'm using thinly sliced New York strip. As now you want to add some soy sauce, followed by dark soy sauce, Shaoxing wine, baking soda, and cornstarch. Now mix it really, really good. You want to make sure every single one of them is nicely coated with this marinade. The cornstarch will do something called velveting, which makes the beef more tender. So it is a must, because then you want to go ahead and fry the whole thing. A wok does great job at it. Since the beef is super thin, it will cook quite quickly. Once that's done, you want to go ahead and put it aside. Using the same exact pan, go ahead and add some oil, followed by some ginger and chilies. Stir fry that for a little bit, and go ahead and add some white onions. As now it's time to add my favorite ingredient, and that will be some sesame oil. Mix that up real good, because now we want to add a special sauce, which is quite simple. Into a container, you add some hoisin sauce, followed by soy sauce, dark soy sauce, Shaoxing wine, some white pepper, and sugar. Now mix that up real good, and that's it. Now throw the beef right back in, followed by that wonderful sauce we just made. Stir fry the whole thing for a little bit, as now you want to add some scallions, toss it until everything is fully mixed, and it is now ready to be served. This is Mongolian beef, and if you've never had it, you should. I have a feeling this one is gonna rank extremely high.
Cheers.
Cheers.
That pepper definitely has a little bit of heat on it. Dude, that meat is so tender. You barely need to put any effort to chew at all. This is good.
Yeah, the glaze of the beef mixed with like the freshness of the veggies, it's just perfect. Like you get such a good sweet combination.
It's savory, it has a hint of sweet onions. The scallions are just there to me. I don't know, they look like just decorations. Would I say this is my favorite dish of the 100 years? No.
Damn.
Is it good? Yes. I recommend it.
Well, let's see if this next one is going to be recommended. It is called Kitfo, and there's a very high chance that you've never heard of this before. But if you had beef tartare before, you might understand where this is going, as this is a traditional Ethiopian dish. And here's how it's made. You first need beef. Filet mignon is perfect for it. It's lean, extremely tender, and probably the best beef to have raw. You want to go ahead and chop up the whole thing. Small little dices is the way to go. As next, into a pan, you want to throw in a generous amount of butter. As that's melting, you want to throw in some shallots, garlic, ginger, cardamom, cumin, followed by black cumin. Now mix that up real good and cook the whole thing. You see, you want to let it simmer for a little bit, as we're trying to make a very flavorful, clarified butter. We don't want any of the milk solids. As you can see, in the end, you should be left with this. But we're not done yet. As into a bowl, you want to throw in your filet mignon, followed by salt, cardamom, meat mita, followed by that special butter we just made. Now you want to mix the whole thing up, and this is what you're left in the end. To plate it, I'll be using a banana leaf. You just gotta make a nice cone, which is quite simple. And of course, be generous with the amount, because this is a dish you probably never had before. However, will everyone enjoy it? Well, we're about to find out right now.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
This is very strange.
The texture, you need to get used to it a little bit.
It feels raw.
It is raw.
Oh, it's raw. Okay.
It's like a little bit harder than the consistency of like a Jello, but extremely flavorful, like it punches you in the face. But it is strange that it's raw.
The meat flavor is good, and what I like about this is like the amount of spices that it has. And I'm not talking about heat, it's hot. No, I'm talking about it has a very flavorful combination of spices that give it kind of like an Indian kind of vibe to it.
It tastes like earthy. I'm not a big fan of that, but it's not bad. I'm also not a fan of the texture.
I think the flavor is nice.
I don't hate it.
It's very unique, and it's something I've never tried before.
With that being said, are you guys ready for the 70s?
Yes.
Let's go.
Well, that's good, because if you love barbecue, you might be very familiar with this one, as this is burnt ends. This piece of meat have a very funny history, as it started as a throwaway, but a pitmaster made it craveable. The funny thing is that in order to make burnt ends, the first thing you need to do is to cook a brisket, exactly how it's normally done. After seasoning it with salt and pepper, into the smoker it goes. Once you got a nice color, you take it out and wrap the whole thing and finish the cooking process. Once it's fully cooked, check it out. We got a brisket, but in order to make burnt ends, you gotta remove the point, which is the fatty part of the brisket. Traditionally, they just remove the edges, but nowadays it is loved by so many people that they usually dedicate the entire point for burn ends. But as you can clearly see, the bark is on the opposite side, and in order to make more bark and more flavorful, you season this part with barbecue rub, which brings a little bit of sweetness to the burnt ends. Once that's done, into the smoker it goes. Then you cook the whole thing up, as the only thing left to do is to slice it up and serve. I can tell you one thing, friends, these little pieces of beef are extremely flavorful and absolutely delicious. If you love barbecue, this is probably one of the best bites. Let's just see how well it will rank.
Cheers.
Cheers. Ooh. On this variation, you can really appreciate that bark. It has such a nice peppery flavor, super crispy and moist on the inside. But what really like takes me back is there's like a hint of sweetness in there.
And it's not like overpowering at all. You get that like just really back end of sweetness, and it just helps it go down all the better.
It's got all of it. It's got the savoriness, the bark, the smokiness, a little bit of sweetness. I am not a fan of the pickle, but you know, the pickle's there if you want it. It's perfect. That's perfect.
The smoke ring on this too is crazy. And even though it's ultra crispy on the edges, it's still juicy.
You just take a bite and it just kind of like fills your mouth with all that like really good brisket fat.
No, this is amazing. I can't even complain.
I like this a lot, man.
All right, guys, I got burn ends coming out the ears. I think I'm ready to move on to the next year.
Now, in the 1980s, Korean immigrants created this, LA Galbi. It is one of my favorite beef dishes. And if you love Korean barbecue, you probably had it. The best part is that it's quite simple to make. You first want to make a marinade. I like to use Asian pears, but if you don't find them available, any pear will work. So now, into a blender, you want to throw in some white onions, followed by the Asian pear, garlic, ginger, soy sauce, sesame oil, honey, and black pepper. Now blend everything on high and get the beef ready. In order to be LA Galbi, this is what you want to use. It's nicely thin short ribs. The key here is to marinate them. This is what makes them extremely special. So after adding a generous amount, I went ahead and pull a vacuum on this marinating container. You want to let this marinate for at least 1 hour, or better yet, overnight. Because the very next day, I took them out and they smell fantastic. Now if you want to be authentic, you definitely want to cook them in charcoal. So outside I went and started to cook them. You got to be careful with them though, since the marinade has sugar, it will burn. You want the fire nice and hot but not too hot. The key is to cook them through and get a nice caramelization. As once they're done, check it out. It is now ready to be enjoyed. To finish them up, you want to go ahead and slice them, get a nice hot plate, throw in some white onions, followed by those wonderful LA Galbi ribs, and finish it off with some green onions and sesame seeds. Now this is LA Galbi. Believe me friends, you want to eat this one.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So fatty. You can taste that char as well.
That marinade is just money, bro.
You can definitely taste that marinade, that little bit of sweetness that comes through.
There's really nothing I would say I would want more on this. It's juicy. You got the charcoal flavor. You got that sweetness from the marinade. This is perfect.
They both said it. The only thing I can say, if you want to try something different, this is a dish that you can go for. It's always good, never fails. If you like something sweet, savory, there it is.
All right, with all that being said, it's obviously perfect. Let's get the 90s going.
If you ever had street food in New York, you probably had this. Halal guys. And even though they serve beef, in the end of the day, it is all about the sauces. But first, we gotta cook that beef. So into a pan, you wanna throw in some oil, followed by onions and garlic. Go ahead and cook that up for a little bit, and immediately throw in your diced beef. I'm using chopped up ribeye. You wanna go ahead and stir it up and cook it nice and quickly. Season it with salt, black pepper, and cumin. Then go ahead and add a tiny bit of beef broth. Mix it up real good. As for some aromatics, throw in some fresh oregano, thyme, and rosemary. Let that cook for a little bit, as once the liquid has evaporated, it is ready. Now for the sauces. First, the red sauce. Into a blender, you want to throw in some chilies, followed by salt and oil. Blend that up real good, and that is your red sauce. If you ever wonder why it's so spicy, now you know. Now for my favorite one, the white sauce. Into a blender, throw in some mayo, followed by yogurt, garlic, lime juice, Dijon mustard, fresh dill, salt, and black pepper. Now blend it on high, and that's the white sauce. Now you know the secret sauce. To plate it up, they usually give you some rice, followed by some lettuce and tomatoes, a generous amount of that beef. We can't forget about the bread, but most importantly, the sauces. Be generous with the white sauce. And if you like it spicy, you know exactly what to do. This is the famous beef from Halal guys. It is a New York staple. I'm just wondering how it's gonna rank.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Oh, yeah.
That meat, it is so well seasoned. Like it's got like, it feels like rosemary. I'm actually really not sure, but, and whatever the heck is going on with the white sauce, it just completely finishes it off.
It does work. The spice is a really good addition. The meat is almost as flavorful as that 1910s meat that we tried, but I would say that it's a little bit more flavorful, and I like that it's in kind of more manageable chunks.
The herb beef does live up to its name because it does have that herby feeling to it, but then you have the spice from it that kind of mixes well, the nice yellow rice. I know Angel doesn't like it, but the tomatoes and the lettuce mix well with it. I'm sure it tastes amazing with the pita. All around, it's a great dish.
The white sauce, it has like this flavor of dill, and it just all goes so well.
I really like this one, but let's move on to the 2000s.
Well, we cannot do 100 years of beef without this, brisket. And the best one in my opinion is from Franklin's Barbecue. Opened in 2009, this thing is on a whole nother level. You see, Franklin is an expert, and he knows exactly what he's doing. He always starts with really good meat. This one, for example, is an Australian Wagyu brisket. It's slightly better than the one he uses, because he uses prime. And we all know Wagyu has a lot more marbling, but even though you can go with the best piece of meat, the key here is to trim things properly, also to season it well. And by the way, he claims to just use salt and pepper, which I later found out it is not true. However, no one really knows exactly what he uses, so I just went with salt and pepper, because the next important flavor is smoke, and for that it takes years to learn. And even though I'm using my offset, once I got a nice color, it was time to wrap it to finish up the cook, because in the end I was left with this Texas style brisket. Now I'll be honest with you, until today the best brisket I ever had in my life was Franklin's. It is delicious. You do have to wait in line for hours. However, every chance I get I continue to practice, and my brisket is pretty good. Let's just see how it stacks up.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh man.
This is the perfect brisket.
Especially because it's so fatty, everything just breaks down and just like melts so perfectly.
I'm not gonna lie, what I like the most is definitely the crust, because it has so much flavor just packed onto it. And then like he said, like the juiciness of the fat, it just coats your entire mouth. Brisket is one of one, bro.
The flavor is on point. You can taste that smoke in every single bite. Seasoned to perfection. This is a bite of brisket I'm not gonna forget for a long time.
I got a pellet smoker at home. Let me tell you, when you smoke it with actual like wood chunks, it's night and day.
And you can definitely tell that this was cooked with real wood. This is nice, delicious, but guys,
I think we're ready for more.
Since the guys are ready for more, I had to put this one into the 100 years of beef. Because in this decade, something went wrong. As even though it looks nice and delicious, for some odd reason, someone thought that this was a good idea. Beyond beef, which is really not beef. I mean, take a look at it. If anyone has a good reason why you should replace this with real beef, let me know in the comments down below. But to make it look good and taste okay, I decided to go ahead and make some meatballs out of it. And I don't know what it is that they put it in, because as soon as you start cooking it, it seems like it's bleeding some way somehow. And I believe that's just beet juice. They put so many different ingredients on this thing, I have no idea. To mask up the horrible flavor, I threw in some marinara sauce and immediately plated it up, followed by some Parmesan cheese and parsley. In this decade, things definitely started getting a little weird. But let's see how this one stacks up.
Cheers.
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 Oh, I know what this is.
I took one bite.
That's not a meatball.
This is not beef.
I ain't gonna hold you. At least to me, it's not that bad.
I'm gonna be 100% honest. This is not good. Texture is off, flavor is weird. This is not it.
The texture is completely weird. The fibers don't separate. It just feels like,
It feels rubbery.
Yes.
it feels almost like diced tofu packed so tightly together. And when you eat it, it's just like they all slide apart really weird. There's not a lot of juice that comes out of it. And the flavor is just like, it's not beef. It's imitation meat, but it will never be meat.
Wow.
Amen. Wow.
Well said. Well said. All these awesome dishes, and then you want to kill it at the end with fake meat.
This is the weakest grand finale I could have ever imagined.
And that concludes 100 years of beef. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, be sure to subscribe. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.